NTV Wild Talk in partnership with the Kenya Wildlife Service and Wildlife Direct.
Hello and welcome to NTV Wild Talk with me, Smriti Vidyarthi, coming to you from Lamu County. Now in this episode, we're about to meet an incredible group of fishermen who have taken up the job of being reef rangers, thanks to the Nature Conservancy and the Northern Rangelands Trust. Now this means that they are taking up a key role in protecting the environment, both in the ocean and on land. Now, for me to meet them, I've actually got to get on a boat, ride for about an hour and a half because they're based on Pate Island. So, come with me.
Welcome.
Asante sana. All right. Cool. Good? Okay.
Red, turn. Turn to a right, turn. My left, big much.
Wow, what a wonderful, warm welcome to Faza village here in Pate Island. We have been welcomed by a parade, and with me is George Maina. He is the Marine Project Coordinator of the Nature Conservancy here in Kenya. What are we witnessing, George?
This is a group of rangers from Pate Marine Community Conservancy and Kiunga Community Conservancies. This is actually an expert group of rangers who have been specially trained to monitor the reef and fisheries. It's a part of a bigger group of rangers.
Wow, they are doing an excellent job over here on the land, but no doubt a lot of their work takes place in the water as well. Why is there a need to have what we're calling reef rangers?
Well, Smithy, I will tell you that we are facing big problems in terms of fisheries. You know, overfishing, damaging fishing practices, and the situation is made worse by the impacts of climate change. And one very important component that needs to be done in order to tackle this problem is to have a group of community enforcement officers. And this is exactly who these rangers are.
Why then would you have rangers on land as well? What are some of the challenges there?
You know, in Kenya we have government protected areas, both in the marine and also on land. And you know, most of this wildlife, some of them very endangered, 70% of them are found in areas that are not protected. And so we need the community enforcement officers like these reef rangers to protect the wildlife that are found within the community, the wildlife and fish that they go every day to exploit. So we need all this wildlife to be secure, and we need the habitats that they are depending on to be kept to maintain the balance, and the community members play a key role.
Well, it certainly is a very big role because they are taking charge essentially of everything around them in terms of the environment on land and in the water, George. So what effort has TNC, that's the Nature Conservancy, and NRT, the Northern Rangelands Trust, put into this to train them? Because protecting wildlife can be quite scientific.
We are partnering with our collaborators here and even abroad, and particularly Northern Rangelands Trust, us as the Nature Conservancy, because we value partnerships. We achieve more by partnering with others. And so what we've done, we are investing in training these rangers, equipping them with skills on how to to patrol, to enforce, and to monitor their resources. And again, we are also making sure that they have sufficient management capacity, and we are also strengthening the community-led institutions that have been formed by government with support from partners like fisheries beach management units, the community conservancies. So we are putting a lot of effort in making these community institutions function well.
And it works hand in hand with the government as well?
Exactly. We work very closely with government because without government, it would be hard to succeed.
Of course.
And also, you know, for the sake of creating synergy,
yes,
and also, you know, maximizing on the few resources that we have.
Okay, George, we are going to find out so much more about how this works and really watch the rangers go in and do their job. But before that, I'm going to speak to the leader of the community to find out how this community has been transformed and how the environment is being protected. With me now is Atwas Swabir. He is the chairman of the Pate Marine Community Conservancy. Thank you so much for welcoming us to Faza village here in Pate. Mr. Swabir, really, how have the lives of the community been changed and improved thanks to the work that the Reef Rangers do?
There is security now because our rangers take time to patrol all these areas to see that people work in peace. There is peace and there is security.
And for their personal lives, some of these rangers have never been trained before. How have their lives improved?
Rangers, we have really trained them, but on wildlife in Manyani Training Center, where the KWS are trained there, and they have also gone to Malindi Marine Park for just to see the marine environment.
And how has the lives of the community in general here in Faza changed?
The life has changed because people have understood that these resources are theirs and they should conserve them so that they use them day and night in a better, sustainable way. Before, people just could fish anyhow they want with destructive gears. People could cut mangroves anyhow they want, but now we have the control. People have to go by the rules, which the community laid themselves. It's the community laid. We have some managed areas, and these managed areas, we are doing the co-management together with the government, the Fisheries Department, the KWS, the KFS. They are all involved in making this management plan. Therefore, we come together, we sit in one table, and we say these are the rules.
Thank you very much, sir, for having us here in Faza village on Pate Island. Now we head out with those Reef Rangers.
Ready?
So we're about an hour out of Faza village on Pate Island and now on the south of Pate Island in the middle of the Indian Ocean. George, it's great to be here. Such a beautiful sight with the water surrounding us. And now the fishermen and the Reef Rangers are ready to head out into the water. Tell us what we should expect.
You know, the challenge we face is that we often lack data that can be used to develop management decisions. So these rangers, the Reef Rangers, what they're going to do in the next 3 or so hours they are going to be counting fish under the water.
That doesn't sound like an easy task, because many people think there are plenty of fish in the sea.
They have been living in the sea, they've been swimming, they know the fish. I think it's a simple job for them.
All right, well, we'll check it out. How do they document this data? Because they're underwater, snorkeling.
Well, they've been trained. They also have their own local traditional knowledge, so they combine the science that we are providing together with their local ecological knowledge. And what we do is that they use these slates.
Okay,
These
underwater?
are slates, which they go with underwater.
Oh, wow.
And they have a pencil, and the slate is prepared like a data sheet. So they swim down there and they can be able to write.
All right, so it sounds like they've got a lot of work to do. They are a busy lot, and I suppose we better let them get on with it right now.
Chonjo.
So ranger number 1 will be counting fish. So what they want to know the number of fish, or the abundance of fish that is under there. So they are not counting all fish, but they have selected some key indicator fish. That is fish that is important as a food source, fish that is important for maintaining the health of the habitat, and fish that is also endangered. He will start swimming along a tape measure that will be lined on the benthic, on the ocean floor, 50 meters. Then ranger number 2 will follow ranger number 1 to make sure that he doesn't get lost, and also ensuring that he doesn't exceed 50 meters. And then when they get to 50-meter mark, they will swim back. They will be looking at macro invertebrates. So these are basically animals that don't have backbones, and they stay on the ocean floor. So these are the key fish that they'll be monitoring, and so they have listed the fish on the slate. So at the end of the transect, they will have counted fish in a 50-meter by 5-meter area. There are some of these invertebrates which are so many down there, and they can't count everything. So for like sea urchins, they will just do the counts in the first 10 meters only. The third ranger and the fourth ranger will come in. They will like to know how much dead coral we have down there, the live coral, the seagrass, and even rocks and sand.
So it's been about 2.5 hours that the reef rangers have been in the water doing their job and collecting critical data. I'm about to speak to the sergeant to find out what his role is, because he wasn't in the water, but he has the data, so we'll find out what exactly was seen and why it's so important. And I'll speak to some of the reef rangers to hear more about their experiences.
Mimi sikuingia kwa maji, kulikuwa na sababu yake, sababu nilikuwa na kazi juu pia nikijaza hizo form. Walipokuwa wakienda kwa diving, wakirudi mimi ndo nashughulika na hiyo form. Sasa mimi sikuenda kulingana na vile kuna GPS, lazima ni mark, ni take time, wajua wameanza saa ngapi na wamaliza saa ngapi. Na wakirudi ndio nachukua form, naanza kujaza kwa mahali pake. Walipoenda, waliporudi na majibu, limekuwa ni majibu mazuri, sababu wameona samaki kile tunachotaka, wameona invertebrate pia kwa hapo, mambo ya corals pia wameziona. Hasa ndo wakirudi hizo fomu tunaangalia tujue ni kitu gani ambacho kimeathirika na vipi samaki wame increase ama wamepungua. Mambo ya invertebrate pia tuone kwenye hao maeneo ambao wameangalia kama wako ama hakuna, na mambo ya corals reef kujue kwamba ziko hai ama zimekufa. Ndio hizo tusaidia sisi kwa jamii yetu, tunajua ni samaki wamezidi katika hii jamii, katika hii maeneo ama wamepungua.
Na nimependa sana kuhifadhi wanyama wa bahari. Ni kazi mzuri sana, na pia naipenda kwa maji yake ni fresh, hana madhara ya ugonjwa, ni fresh water. Mwake unajua viloko hai na vilokufa, unapata na samaki walioingia na waliotoka, na tunapata idadi ya samaki ni wangapi na maji walioko hai na waliokufa. Sababu leo utajua kama hapa ni mawe yako hai. In case kesho nitakuja kama imekufa nitapata kuona, nitapata kumaka.
Nimefanya kwa miaka 34 katika Wizara ya Fisheries, na kazi yangu ni hususan ni kulinda mazingira na kuiangalia rasilimali ya community itumike vyema, na tumeshirikiana na shirika la conservancy kwa sababu moja ya kwanza ni kwamba kuwafundisha namna kuhifadhi, kwa sababu sisi tumeendelea kabla wao. Kwa hivyo tuko na ujuzi wa kutosha sisi kwa vile miaka mingi kuishafanya hii kazi ya fisheries, na tunazuia mitego pia ile ambayo haistahiki kutumika. Ndio kazi ambayo tunashughulika nayo zaidi.
Umuhimu wa kuhifadhi kama sisi wakati wa sasa tuliambiwa kulikuwa na kasa, kuna nguva, tulijionea. Na pindi sisi tunapo watoto wetu nao pia tutaki waambiwe kama story, takawajionee pia wao. Ndio maana tukaamua kujitolea kuconserve our nature.
So it's been a long day out with the reef rangers in Lamu. We are now, though, getting closer back to Faza village in Pate Island, off Lamu town island. And George, I've got to say, you know, the work of the reef rangers isn't as easy as one may think it could be. What are some of the risks involved in the work that they do?
The rangers, as you saw, they were fighting against the current.
Yeah.
You know, like ranger who was counting fish, there was another one following him behind just to direct him to count fish in a straight line of 50 meters and 5 meters wide. So the risk of, you know, being washed by the current. There are also some dangerous and poisonous organisms down there. You know, the sharks are there. There are other poisonous fish like stonefish and others. And we've got to be careful when we are working underwater.
George, what happens next? Now the data has been collected, what is done with it?
The rangers will put these data into data sheets, and we will show them how to analyze that. And then thereafter, we are in the process of developing a database that the rangers will be putting in the data directly into a computer, and the computer will generate reports for them. By reports, I mean simple graphs that the rangers can print and present in their community meetings and discuss the trends.
All right, so it seems very critical to involve the community. Why is it so important, do you think?
Well, I think it's all about making them own their resource and making them be able to see how their resource is changing over time. If they don't assess and monitor their resource and see how the change is coming, have the figures to describe that, then they won't be able to discuss in their meeting and trigger some management decisions.
And how often will these reef rangers go out? Because it's happened today. When is the next time?
Some of these fish have they have different life history traits. Some of them will show an increase after maybe several years, like 10 years or 5 years. So for this monitoring to be effective, the rangers will be monitoring after 6 months. The reason behind this is because so that they can capture what what is the situation during, let's say, rough season and during calm season.
Because really, if they were to do it any more frequently, it wouldn't have such an impact because very little change would happen within that time.
You don't expect to go to some of the sites we went and see any significant difference within a short period of time of like a month or so.
George, thank you so much for that. And remember that the Nature Conservancy and the Northern Rangelands Trust doesn't only work with reef rangers underwater, but there are also rangers here on land that are supported by these two organizations. And after the break, we'll find out much more about those rangers. This is NTV Wild Talk with me, Smriti Vidyathi, coming to you from Lamu County. Let's, though, for now, take a quick break. Much more when we return. Welcome back to NTV Wild Talk with me, Smriti Vidyathi. Now we are at a place called Rewa here on Pate Island. And George, now a lot of the work that the rangers do actually does take place in the water, but not all of it. A lot of it is on land. Tell us more about what they do overground.
On land, what they normally do, they monitor what they see, like carcasses of wildlife. And by wildlife, because this is a marine-based community conservancy, they look at carcasses of sea turtles. So from sea turtles, they also monitor any other wildlife animals that are within the island.
And also, do they do other work regarding mangroves, for example, or any other sort of criminal activity? Because they are rangers, so they are responsible for a lot on land.
Yeah, this place is very important in terms of mangroves. 67 of mangrove cover of the Kenyan coast are found in Lamu, and Pate Island is a place with a lot of these mangroves. So what the community does, they do enforcement. They patrol within the mangroves to see whether there is any illegal logging that is happening, and actually that's what they try to stop in collaboration with other stakeholders.
Now, where we are standing at the moment is a very significant site. Tell us why.
Well, this spot is what the local community call as a slaughterhouse for turtles.
Really?
Yes.
Why is that? Explain.
And this is because the area you see behind us is where fishermen come in, those who want to evade any arrest and they have ill intentions, like they have caught turtles. So they come here to unofficial fish landing sites where they land their catch, including poached turtles, and they slaughter them here.
But why is this area very popular with turtles? What's different about it?
This is a very good feeding area for turtles, and they come here to feed, and the fishers know where these turtles frequent, and so they go there to set nets intentionally or unintentionally, and they end up catching turtles.
All right. Okay. Well, it is the rangers that are responsible for catching these people who actually poach and kill the turtles. As you remember in one of our earlier episodes from Watamu, turtles are really critical to the environment, to the ecosystem, and they are endangered. So really, they do need to be protected. Let's head over now and find some of the rangers and see what they're up to. Oh, wow. This is huge.
Yes, it is. This is Shali and Sergeant Bwana.
All right, habari. So, Shali, Warden, Jambo. Tini nini, my gosh.
This is a carcass, turtle carcass.
And this is basically the shell, which means all the body of the turtle has been removed. So, what species of turtle is this?
Huyu ni kasa wa kawaida ambayo imetuleta sisi kuja hapa na patushughulike kazi. Ni hawa ni uwinjaji haramu, potting, ndio wanaifanya kazi. Wanachukua hizi, wanakuja hapa, wanachinja. They doing slaughtering. Wanachinja, halafu wanaenda kuuza.
Na wanakula ama nini?
Ndio wanakula.
Wow, I mean, this is huge, and it's such a heartbreaking sight because remember in our earlier episode on NTV Wild Talk, we saw a greenback turtle, a live one that was this size. And now to think that these are just empty shells and the turtles are dead. So what is your job as the ranger? What do you do?
Kazi yetu sana muhimu, kazi yetu sisi ni kuhifadhi mazingira na kuhakikisha mazingira yetu yako salama, na kama sisi rangers sote tuko tight na kupambana na hawa wawindaji haramu ili wasiendelee kuwaua hawa kasa kiholela holela.
You find the carcasses here, lakini unapata hiyo pocha?
Ndio, hawa poachers huwa sana wanatumia akili. Pengine tamu ile sisi ambao tumetoka kuenda patrol, wao pengine wanatoka mapema sana, wanafanya kitendo tukija imemalizika. Lakini pia tumekuwahi kupambana nao pia mashua kwa bahari wakiendelea na mitego, lakini huwa tunaokoa hawa kasa. Ni kulingana na sharia, huwezi kumchukua mtu ikiwa kasa ameshikwa na net, wani kumokoa kasa, mmokoe ili maisha yake yawe safe aende zake.
So kazi yako iko gumu?
Kazi ni ngumu, lakini na sisi tunapambana hivyo hivyo. Ni kazi na tupata majukumu, unajua tuna majukumu ya maisha, majukumu ya watoto tunawasomesha, tunawalea. Sasa na tuko ngangari na sisi na kazi.
Okay, na hii notes iko ya nini?
Hii ni data sheet ambazo tunajaza wildlife carcass. Kuna hii form ya wildlife carcass ambayo tunajaza, tunaandika mambo GPS number, mambo ya tarehe na ile size ya huyu mnyama, alafu na aina ya huyu kasa, ikiwa ni wa kike au wa kiume, pia tunajaza katika hii karatasi. Alafu na umri wake pia tunajaza, iko ni adult au sub adult tunajaza.
Okay. Now, how often do you find carcasses in a week? Carcasses mingi ama kidogo?
Wakati wa nyuma ilikuwa bado conservancy, bado pata marine community conservancy bado haijaundwa, walikuwa kasa ni wingi sana, pengine kwa wiki moja wanaweza kuwa pengine kasa 50 au 60. Lakini jamii ilikaa ya BMU walikaa chini ili wakaileta fikra ya kuhifadhi mazingira, wakaona umuhimu wa kuhifadhi hawa kasa. Ndio sasa ikaundwa kikosi inaitwa Pate Marine Community Conservancy Rangers. Ndio ikaundwa askari wote kuanzia Mtangawanda, Kizingitini Ndao mpaka Mtangawanda. Okay. Sisi baada ya kuja kufanya kazi, tulihamasisha watu kwa wingi. Board na sisi Rangers tumefanya awareness kuhamasisha watu, na watu wamekuja kujua kumbe kumeleta fikra, wameelewa sasa ni kitu gani umuhimu wa kasa. Nafikiri the number of poaching sasa imepungua.
Okay.
Sio kama ilikuwa ya kawaida.
Thanks to the work that you and your team are doing. Sawa, okay, and when you find these, sasa utafanya nini na hii?
Once tumekuja hapa, tumeona ikakas, kwanza lazima tuchukue GPS, turipoti, tuandike, tupige radio kwa ofisi, tupeane ripoti. Halafu hizi carcass shells tukipata sisi huwa tunafuka mshimo, tunafanya barrel.
Okay. Twende.
Sasa. Bila kidogo.
Okay.
Jump.
Oh, heavy. Oh my. Okay. Wow, this must have been a massive turtle. Just carrying this shell is heavy. You can only imagine what it would be if the turtle was in here. Okay, so let's do this burial. So, George, as this burial is taking place, you know, it is very heartbreaking, but at the same time, there is a positive side to it because action is being taken to address the issue. How confident are you that really this is now the way forward?
The incidences of poaching have gone down, and which means that the wildlife are being secured.
Yeah, they certainly are. And as you speak, one of the rangers is bringing in another shell as well, which goes to show, oh, and that has
a head
on it as well. All right, sawa too. It's a really heartbreaking sight. But how confident are you that really things are changing?
Well, several months ago, I visited this site, and what we saw was heartbreaking. You know, we saw more than 10 carcasses of turtles, and so we come back here and we see 3. It's not a good thing to happen, but we are hoping that this trend of declining poaching will continue, and eventually the community will be able to put this thing to an end.
Okay, all right. Well, as we help bury the rest of this in just a moment, we'll be heading back to Faza village and we'll speak to the pioneer, the woman behind this entire training project. So now we're back in Faza village here on Pate Island, and with me is Juliet King. She is the technical advisor for the Northern Rangelands Trust. Welcome to NTV Wild Talk, Juliet.
Thank you.
Now, Juliet, what we've witnessed is pretty incredible work by the reef rangers and the rangers on land as well. You are actually the sort of pioneer behind all of this, especially here in this area. Tell us how it all started.
Well, I've been working with Northern Rangelands Trust for 10 years now, and we originally came up with this idea around setting up monitoring systems that the rangers can do for themselves, and which empowers them to look at the information, to make decisions around the information they're collecting, to improve the management of their conservancies. So historically, monitoring is usually done by scientists, and often it's an external thing. Results are presented to people and they're supposed to act on it. And really the feeling was that we needed to devolve this to the conservancies, get them to do that themselves. And that would essentially give them a stronger mandate and a stronger tool to manage their own resources and to understand what was happening with their own resources.
And based on sort of your interaction with them, are they beginning to understand the importance of their resources and the importance of conserving it?
Very much so. I think, you know, this is something that for people who are dependent on natural resources, so whether it's pastoralists who are dependent on grass and dependent on the land for their livestock, or whether it's fishermen who are dependent on fish stocks, they know that things are changing and they understand that their wildlife are declining, they're losing grass, they're losing fish, and their livelihoods that depend on that are suffering. So they understand this is happening, and what we're trying to do is give them a systematic way of measuring that, so that this is something that they can really carefully look at over time and then see what management actions they can do to change that.
How intensive has this sort of training been for them? Because these are fishermen, men of the village who perhaps have never really interacted with such sort of science. How complex is it?
Well, you know, we've taken science and we've tried to simplify it down to something that communities can not only do themselves, because I think what I've found is that most of the rangers I work with are very enthusiastic, really want to learn, and they can be trained and they can be very good at doing it. And the trick is about then the next stage, which is analysis and interpretation of that information. So yeah, it's something we do gradually over a couple of years, and you introduce little elements at a time.
All right, so step by step. And where has this bigger idea come from? I mean, we've seen land rangers, you know, up in the north of Kenya or on the grasslands in the savannas. We've never really seen reef rangers. So is this idea, has it been taken from an existing idea?
Yeah, very much so. So what we set up about 10 years ago was a system called the Wildlife Conservation and Management Monitoring System. And that was essentially a ranger-based monitoring tool that the Conservancy rangers started doing. So they were recording information on elephant carcasses, on sightings of wildlife, on human-wildlife conflict. And they've now been systematically doing that for about 10 years. They have a system that is paper-based. We've kept it very simple. Purely for the reason that it's expensive if we go into gadgets and a lot of technology, and again this is a system we want conservancies to do on their own. So we've brought that idea of a simple paper-based sort of ranger-based system and now trying to apply it into the marine environment. So this is a bit of a first. I don't think there are many places where communities themselves are doing this kind of monitoring for themselves. So this is really something we're trying now.
What sort of impact is this work having on the lives of the people?
You know, that's a big thing, is that these conservancies have to have a dual purpose. So they're about protecting the environment and conserving the environment, but they're very much about improving the livelihoods of the people who are members of those conservancies. So they, what we're seeing, and it's a slow progress. I think we sometimes there are unrealistic expectations that things are going to change quickly, but you're seeing one of the biggest impacts, particularly in northern Kenya, is security, about improved security and creating this foundation of a stable foundation upon which now sort of economic development can come in. So whether that's tourism, whether it's marketing of livestock, beadwork for women and providing a market for women. So definitely there's an impact on livelihoods. It's not always a direct financial impact, but it's these other indirect impacts that are very significant.
And then what about the impact on the environment? Because essentially that is what you are trying to protect and conserve through these projects. How we do know that it's not going to be overnight that you're going to see change, but what impact do you hope to see?
Well, I think already we're seeing an improvement, or at least a stabilization, particularly for wildlife. And this is talking about these conservancies that have been in operation for some of them 20 years, or the majority for at least 10 years, up in sort of the North Kenya landscape. And there we're seeing a stabilization of wildlife numbers. A big impact, which is probably the most significant one in the last few years, is that they've really reduced the elephant poaching. We had a crisis in as you're aware, in around 2012, and that's it's dropped by 80% to what it was a few years ago. So that's one of the major impacts, and that's a very significant thing that these rangers are doing.
And what are your hopes going forward? Because we saw those reef rangers, for example, out in the water. In a year's time, what do you hope for?
You know, for me, in terms of from the monitoring side, I can see that they are really, they're understanding what they're monitoring. And they've got the process down, and they're doing some great work. I was really nice to see how confident they are with it now. So this will be something that they'll be picking up, and they'll do routinely on their own as part of their monitoring system for their own conservancy. So hopefully this is an activity. The coral reef monitoring is only going to be done twice a year because of the seasons. It's not possible to do it at certain times of year.
All right, Juliet, thank you so much for all the work you're doing, advising these rangers here and essentially transforming the community and the environment. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
All right, with me, Juliet King. She is the technical advisor for the Northern Rangelands Trust. From that, we shift our focus now on NTV Wild Talk. Here is your chance to win an awesome prize. It's time for our Wild Guess question.
List 4 responsibilities undertaken by the Reef Rangers. List 4 responsibilities undertaken by the Reef Rangers. To participate, just like the NTV Wild Facebook page and post your answer on the timeline post that's associated with this question. The first person to answer correctly wins lunch or dinner worth 5,000 shillings at the incredible Zen Garden located in Nairobi. The winner will have the option of having a delicious meal at the Bamboo Oriental Restaurant or the Jade Coffee and Tea House at Zen Garden. The winner also gets free entry for 4 people and a vehicle to any national park of their choice, courtesy of the Kenya Wildlife Service, 1 bottle of wine, courtesy of Wines of the World, and a gift hamper, courtesy of Wildlife Direct. Terms and conditions apply. Last week's lucky winner was Naliaka Lukorito.
And now here is our Wild Pick segment. Conservation and communities go hand in hand. If communities don't understand the environment that surrounds them, they won't understand the importance of protecting it and the benefits that they'll get from safeguarding it. But what's even better is when communities are involved in the conservation process, just like what's happening here on some of the islands in Lamu, thanks to the Nature Conservancy and the Northern Rangelands Trust. Well, that's it on NTV Wild Talk with me, Smriti Vidyarthi. Thanks very much for watching. We'll see you again next Tuesday at 10 p.m. You're not even recording. The red light's not on.
Then we'll see what
Yeah, see what you can do. I'll keep a hold of it.
Tell us your title. Yeah. Sasa, are we okay? But I guess. Yeah.
You'll get in, Smriti. Fall out!
NTV Wild Talk in partnership with the Kenya Wildlife Service and Wildlife Direct.